U.S. Soccer headquarters and all of this soccer stuff to a native, it's just more the outside coming in, reshaping Atlanta in his image. So overnight, you all of a sudden a soccer city.
We aspire to help make Atlanta become the epicenter of soccer in North America.
I mean, you're talking north of 70,000 people for an Atlanta United match. You don't see that in a lot of places around the country, and it's certainly something we're very proud of here in Atlanta.
Arthur Blanks made a massive commitment in that regard as the lead investor to try to bring U.S. soccer here. The most successful expansion team launch in professional sports history. We've been #1 in attendance from day one. When you say things like that, like, yeah, I'd say soccer's resonating.
Mercedes-Benz Stadium is certainly a focal point of pride for our city. These big sport events want to come and play and hold their event inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And fans want to come here and participate and watch a match or a game there. Whether it's football or soccer or concerts, any cultural event, it really stands out as the premier venue in the country.
You look at the competing sports that we have here that other markets, the Madrids, the Barcelonas, the Londons, don't necessarily have, right? You have the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball. So the competition within sports here makes soccer's growth a little bit more challenging than what it does in some of those countries and cities where there's not as much competition. I think it's established itself as a place that if you're going to do soccer in the United States, you're going to come to Atlanta.
Our infrastructure out here, where we are, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Training Ground, I think it's the nicest training facility probably in America. So Mr. Blank invested very heavily from day one in making this a really NFL level product. We treated it the same as the Atlanta Falcons, and I think the fans responded to that.
I think passion is something that Atlanta has for everything that we do, whether it's sports, culture, arts, music, food. I think we're built on passion, and our history shows that.
A lot of folks have moved to Atlanta. I mean, it's gone from 2 million people in 1996 after the Olympics to about 6 or 7 million people now. And with all those folks coming in from all over, Atlanta United's really been the unifier for a lot of these new immigrants to Atlanta over the last 10 years or so, to really have a team that is authentically theirs that they can identify with.
I'm a product of sports and social impact. I actually grew up in youth sports and after-school programming. I got introduced to professional sports when a professional athlete came to my youth center. And so that is what sort of influenced me to be able to use sports for social change and be able to incorporate it into underserved communities, particularly communities of color, and being able to use sports to influence whether it's in education, access to sports, opportunities in career development, whether it's for fundraising, teaching the game, influencing students and first generations to embrace their Spanish and be able to use that as a resource and a skill set.
We have a large Latino population. I think that brings a lot of diversity to our fan group for Atlanta United, and I love it, man. We get to benefit a lot from it, from being here in Atlanta, having a brewery right down the street from Mercedes-Benz. I see the difference in the different teams. When Atlanta United play, it's such a great vibe.
Atlanta very much is a soccer city. I think people don't realize the love that so many people from diverse communities have for this sport in this city, because I think people don't expect that from Atlanta. I don't think people expect the diverse communities we have here, the people from not just cultural backgrounds, but economic backgrounds who love this sport here.
Man, I'll tell you, you think Atlanta United been around as long as the other sports teams. I see more Atlanta United stuff across the board, across all classes and races and and neighborhoods with flags and what we call swag, you know?
Getting to see how now people recognize, okay, yeah, Dominique Wilkins, Chipper Jones, Michael Vick, like all these huge Atlanta superstars, you know, Brad Gazan's right there. It's just part of the sports conversation. So in my mind, that makes it Soccer City, USA.
I do think Atlanta is a soccer city. It's a multicultural city, and when you have the diversity that we do have, and when you then start a soccer team, it's taken a huge liking from the city, and we're extremely grateful for the support that Atlanta United gets, but more so the support that the sport of soccer gets. It's tremendous, especially when you compare it to the rest of the world.
This is my 6th season here. You know, the city's been great to me. So much culture and different backgrounds coming through this city. You get people from all over ecstatic about soccer here in Atlanta, and you can see it with Atlanta United.
I feel like Atlanta's defined by its fans. They give it its personality. It's the different communities, regardless of what part of the city that you live in, you can come together and bring that energy and cheer for something collectively together.
Atlanta chose me. I didn't choose Atlanta. Ex-professional soccer player, retired, bad knee injury, brought my parents over to Atlanta, and we opened up one of the greatest South African restaurants in the world. I've never felt at home in a place so fast in my life.
I needed the trees, the canopies, the density of Atlanta, the culture of Atlanta, the diversity of Atlanta, and that's what Atlanta brought to me.
I just hope that everybody comes along for the ride, because Atlanta is the best soccer city in the world. In the world.
I think America is still a very attractive place to work if you're coming from different places from all around the world. And I think Atlanta itself, that diversity is a beacon. And the airport is incredibly encouraging, because wherever your family is, they're probably a flight away, and they can come visit you and they can come see you reliably.
Atlanta's such a global city. When you look at all of the roots of the city and all the different types of people that do live here, and then you tack that on with the airport, you can get pretty much anywhere in the world on a direct flight. And when you're trying to attract international talent to what is considered an up-and-coming league that aspires to be a top 5 league in the world, those are types of things that help players want to come here. And they can come here and they can blend in, they can feel at home, people respect them, and they can truly have a life here with their families. And that's what you're actually seeing in players wanting to come here, because it's a place that their families can grow.
Soccer in Atlanta has definitely grown. You can feel the energy, you can feel the enthusiasm, you can definitely see the different countries being represented. And for me, I would say what's really exciting is seeing communities travel 4, 5, 6 hours just to come and have the opportunity to be able to see a player that represented for 90 minutes the uniform of Atlanta United, but then still also be able to give a shout out to their home country.
La diversidad que hay aquí en Atlanta, poder conectar con varias amistades y lo hace mucho más especial. Principalmente mi esposa y mis 2 hijas viven conmigo aquí. El resto de mi familia está en Venezuela. 7 años mañana y 3.
What resonated with the Atlanta United fan base at the beginning was some really grassroots stuff. Something as simple as going around and putting a flag in the window of a bar, putting a flag in a front yard of a lawn in Decatur, but having whole neighborhoods spring up as Atlanta United, their affinity for it. And we look at, when we sell a jersey, we're less worried about the margin on that jersey, and we look at it as a billboard. We say anybody who's bought an Atlanta United jersey, that's a walking advertisement for our brand and our club. And what better way to connect on a grassroots level than by having folks walking around town and wearing our uniform. But we are very much a sport that you can be a part of. You can come stand in the supporter section, and you can stand and play a drum and throw your beer as long as it's backwards. That's a real rule. And you can have fun together. And this idea of the soccer is a shared communal experience.
We haven't been focused on ticket sales. We haven't been focused on dollars. We've been focused on impact on people. And as a result of doing that, you're going to see the ticket sales, you're going to see the show rate, you're going to see the other business metrics. But for me, that mindset that I've brought in has been not leading by the money, it's been leading by the people. When Atlanta United was initially built, and it's something that we actually remind each other in daily meetings here at Atlanta United and brainstorm sessions, we wanted to make sure that we created something that regardless of whether you were from Atlanta or you were born in Atlanta, that you could rally around Atlanta United. And when you see Atlanta, there's, it's a city of transplants. And we wanted to make sure that we could connect with all of those people, and soccer being a newer sport in North America, we wanted to make sure that it didn't matter what age you were, this could be something that you could pass down to, the next generation within your family.
Por supuesto, cuando llegué a este estado, me enamoré del estado y yo digo que yo soy de Atlanta, entonces yo pedía un equipo de profesional en Atlanta, aún lo tenemos y cada vez que me deja mi tiempo yo voy a ver Atlanta United y claro que lo apoyo, eso es importante, ¿no? Apoyar el equipo profesional porque a través de eso nuestra comunidad, algún día algún jugador de nosotros puede llegar ahí, ¿no? Entonces es importante apoyar el fútbol profesional.
When they settle down in Atlanta and have kids, their kids are going to grow up as Atlanta United fans. And their kids are going to drag them to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And they're going to end up buying a jersey. And they're going to have a player that they love. And it then just continues to grow the cycle. There's been soccer here since the late 60s. And I think what the Atlanta Chiefs did when they launched in the 60s was so important because they realized Atlanta wasn't an international city at all. Like, you had just started to see the fruits of having a major airport. But when the Chiefs started, they had to go and teach the game. And they immediately signed players to 12-month contracts and said, you're gonna play for 6 months and you're gonna go teach for 6 months. You're gonna go to PE teachers, you're gonna go to YMCAs, you're gonna go to rec departments, and it's literally, this is a soccer ball. You don't pick it up with your hands, you kick it. All of those things were so vital. When the Chiefs started, you had about 200 people who played soccer in Atlanta. By the end of year 2, you had exposed tens of thousands of people to playing. So then you had youth leagues start, you had adult leagues start. You started to see an infrastructure and an ecosystem kind of grow. Then the Ruckus, then the Silverbacks, all of that. So Atlanta as a soccer city has grown alongside Atlanta as an international city.
Soccer in Atlanta is a rich culture, and there's many people out there actually think it's kind of started from Atlanta United, and they got into it in 2017 when we had the MLS team. It's been huge for the city, but there's actually a rich culture. You had the Silverbacks prior to that, Atlanta Chiefs. I've got friends that actually were on the team, years ago, and it's really cool hearing the story. So when we can kind of carry some jerseys, they're hard to find, we can carry some jerseys in here, it kind of emphasizes what an amazing soccer culture we've always had, but Atlanta United since 2017 has been huge for the city.
Golden Spike tradition comes from the history of Atlanta. So if you look, Atlanta wouldn't be on the map if it wasn't for a decision back in, I think it was 1836. You have to check that. But that decision, 1836, to make this the railroad hub, or the final stop in the railroad, we wanted to look to find a tradition that people could rally around, that truly felt true to Atlanta and that was authentic. None of us would be here if it hadn't been for that decision. And so to lean into a railroad spike where, again, all different walks of life came together to build that railroad. And it's a sign of strength, and it's a sign of excellence, and it's a sign of unity.
I think from a fan experience standpoint, the ability for fans to easily get to Mercedes-Benz, whether it's through the ingress and egress of driving or whether it's through public transportation, is a very important part of their experience. I think Mercedes-Benz as a stadium does a tremendous job of getting fans into the stadium, giving them a great experience in and around the concourse. There's not a bad seat inside the stadium. And then the relationships that the organization has with the supporter groups, drives that fan experience. And then most recently, you probably saw that Brewhouse was, selected as the #1 soccer pub in the U.S., and that's obviously right here in Little Five Points. And so you combine all of these things into the fan experience and all the elements that go into it, and Atlanta has all the ingredients for a global, successful, sports market.
A bunch of us came together at Brewhouse, which is a local soccer pub. It's kind of known as being probably the oldest, most historic soccer pub in Atlanta. Regardless of your affiliation, you're going to be able to catch your game, whether you're watching Dortmund or whether you're watching EPL, whatever the team, there's going to be some sort of crowd that watches there.
If you love soccer, at some point, you've been here. And you've had to be here for some big game. You talk about things that have kept soccer alive, keep that day-to-day conversation going, give soccer people a place to be and a place to hang out like this morning. There's nothing like this place. And it feels like your basement in a lot of ways, in a really cool way. The Brewhouse has seen generations of Atlanta soccer fans.
Atlanta is one of the biggest soccer venues in the country. Before even Seattle or Chicago or Miami, New York. I think Atlanta is becoming #1, I guess, I hope. We are Atlanta United partners, pub partners. They have a program that they have several bars and they're partners and they do parties when it's an away game and we get all the people from them. And I think we're the #1 bar partner to them. And I think they think the same too. Everybody takes Marta all the way to the stadium. Once everybody's getting ready after the games in the morning and afternoon, they just go to the Mercedes-Benz and watch the game. Connect the city, and now with soccer on the streets, which is a great idea. Everything is together, soccer on the streets, Atlanta United, the Brewhouse, and many things to come, and the Premier League is awesome. And we're so proud to be part of the Atlanta United idea and push to become the best city soccer, and I hope we are part of the legacy in the future and every time better, every time better.
We're at Little Five Points. It's a real kind of eclectic, eccentric, vibrant hub, and it's in a real good location to the Mercedes-Benz. We partner with, obviously, the Brewhouse, and yeah, we have a great partnership with them. They have the people come in, great food, great drink, great atmosphere. Everybody's welcome, and then you got a chance you can come in and shop as well. It's a great little partnership, and it's the true kind of soccer hub of Atlanta. We're spreading the love of the game through our jerseys. So.
As we looked at what we needed in an office, both physically, but then also with all the business that we do, Atlanta just kept rising to the top of the list. Whether you look at the business community here and how well tied together the Chamber, the Sports Council, the Convention and Visitors Bureau is, the way that they work together. You look at the airport, with us working in travel, there's more opportunity to bring direct flights into and out of Atlanta than anywhere else in the United States. Atlanta is such a diverse community, and that's something that was very important to us. And I think the way that the city embraces sports here is really unique, and that was another contributing factor to why we chose Atlanta to build our North America headquarters. The other piece that I think is important is players and the team's experience, not only in travel, but when they're in the city. And I think Atlanta does a tremendous job of embracing the city and the culture into the experience of the players and the fans at the games. And I think that plays a big part in why, when you come to the US for sports and specifically for soccer, you're gonna come to Atlanta.
MARGA is a transit system that we operate in the city of Atlanta and various counties surrounding Atlanta. We operate in 38 stations. We have 2 rail lines that primarily service one north-south and one east-west. And we cover everything from the perimeter loop of 285 and everything in the Atlanta metropolitan area. We are uniquely situated where we can service the airport all the way to our events, and you can take the Marga from anywhere in the city, from the airport all the way to directly to the venues where people are participating and attending the multiple events that they participate in. Marga and Atlanta United had developed a very unique partnership where we have our brands come together. We support Atlanta United as our local team here. We do provide a lot of service for the fans to get to the games and get home after the end of the game. We service approximately 17,000 on average for a home game event at Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
When you look at being able to get from the airport into the city through public transportation, and MARTA obviously being the focal point of that, it's going to make, or break the experience that everybody has. Those relationships between when people arrive and how they get in and around the city are going to be, significant.
MARTA is really kind of the Metro Atlanta's transit agency. And it's a combination of hard rail, so your typical trains that go east and west, north and south. And then obviously they have bus transportation as well. When we thought about the opportunity to work with MARTA, it was really about how do we take this access component of our program to the next level. And given how many people, particularly low-income people, utilize the transit agency to get around, we felt that it was a great opportunity to partner in such a way where families would not have to have transportation be a barrier to actually getting access to the sport.
It's cool that every game we play, whether it's here at East Point or in West End or Lindbergh or
there's always a MARTA station
right next to it. And so if we for some reason don't have the money to Uber or don't have the vehicle that day, we can hop on the train.
We started building out the Station Soccer project and the Soccer in the Streets program within that. We looked at each station community, and the communities started to become their own clubs. All of the participants play at their station club during the week where they train, and on the weekends they play each other in what's game days. And so they have their own colors, they have their own teams, they have their own age groups. It's almost like it's a community club that's been built by our Soccer in the Streets coaches and our staff, and most importantly, the community, which some of these communities are very new to soccer.
You combine Atlanta United's success, the proliferation of soccer clubs around the metro area. In some ways, kind of the alternative now is soccer because other sports, for different reasons, are not as popular. I think we are growing into a soccer city because of those factors. But I will say this, in the neighborhoods that have traditionally been underserved, I think there's still work to do to make those communities feel like soccer is a big part of their lives and a part of their culture. And I think eventually when we can say all neighborhoods have access to the sport, when the parents are just as excited and just as knowledgeable about the sport as their kids, and then when these soccer villages, right, in these communities become true conveners of the broader community, then I think that on top of the great work that's happening with Atlanta United, I think then we'll be the soccer city that everyone knows we can be.
Atlanta is a soccer city. That was really highlighted by what you see with Atlanta United. I don't think anyone would have thought that 65, 70,000 people would show up to these games in the way that they did, but it really highlights that there's a massive soccer fan base here. I think people will quickly find out that we're not only a soccer city, but We have a very strong IQ in soccer as well.
The numbers tell the story, the ticket sales tell the story, the fan viewership tells the story. You can make friends, you can make family members that you had probably never would have encountered before. Pero estamos en un estadio, estamos comiendo, estamos bailando, and we're cheering on the same team. And at the end of the day, the hope is that the score is in your favor. Pero si no, esa experiencia is not something that you can create anywhere else.